The Morning Wave with Sam Lehoko.
Wave after wave, wave after wave.
9 to 11 a.m. weekdays on Mix 93.8.
Right, 9:28. Good morning to you. Happy Monday. So every Monday we speak to Candace on Coach's Corner, and today we're talking about emotional triggers. But before we get into that, Candace, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Good morning, ladies.
Yes.
Good morning.
Weekend was good?
Fantastic. The rugby was great. And you, ladies?
Fantastic. Speaking of rugby, what was the final score?
Good one. Sorry, I lost interest by then. I know we won.
I believe it's a bit of a, people were a little bit disappointed with the win. It wasn't like a full win.
So pretty close, pretty tight.
I'm not sure, but it was just they weren't
24 something.
Yeah, they weren't happy with performance. It was just like a win.
Okay, well, let's talk about triggers. Hopefully this wasn't a trigger for anybody, the rugby score, please. So Candace, let's get into what a trigger is.
So there are two types of triggers, and we're not going to be speaking about the very deep ones today, those ones that bring up stuff from the past that you have to heal. I'm speaking about those in the moment when something sparks inside of you. You were fine and now you're not. And you're suddenly irritated or agitated or angry. So it's the little things that happen every single day, and let's be honest, they happen all the time.
Oh, they do, hey? And you really, to moderate yourself, it's quite difficult because that's exactly what it is. You're not anticipating it to happen. And I think it happens with us on radio quite often. You know, things will happen behind the scenes and you have to just continue on your normal path, but you are triggered in a big way, and you still have to just maintain.
I'll admit, more me than Laurie. Yeah, I get triggered on a daily basis.
You hide it very well, Sam.
Thanks, Candace. So how do we identify triggers?
Again, it's a physical feeling, and something's going to shift. You're going to be sparked, and it's something you've seen or heard. It's a moment in time, and you're going to feel it, but then you're also going to recognize it by a shift in how you start behaving. So we all have different things that we do and different behaviors that we show when we're triggered. For example, you could just suddenly be angry. Your body language could change. You could start shouting. You could start swearing. And then you get the less extreme, noticeable ones where you withdraw or you become passive aggressive, which is, you know what? I'm going to show her. The next time she asks me for something, I'm not going to give it to her because she wasn't very nice to me. So when we notice any of those behaviors, that is how we know we're triggered.
Do we feel like it's almost like a little bit of a grudge that we've never made peace with, and that it keeps on then poking its naughty little head out?
That is part of it. But let's get on to, because I think that there's something even deeper into this than that.
Okay. So tell us, why is it important to identify these triggers, Candace?
If we don't, we are going to cause what I call damage. Now, it's not damage that's huge, but for me, regret. For me, is a cost, because it's that feeling of, I wish I hadn't behaved like that. I wish I hadn't said that, but you can't take it back and you can't rewind. Every time we act on our triggers and we don't clear them and we don't choose wisely what we're going to do with them, there's some kind of a damage caused.
But what is this damage caused? And you know, is there always damage?
Always. Even if it's something as simple as your personal peace. So it's a cost to you because the taxi driver has cut you off. You haven't noticed the trigger. You're sitting in this rage. By the time you get to work, you've spent an hour in a space that you didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
When you get to work, then people are going to see the brunt of that. So then it just keeps going. So personal peace is a big cost. Your reputation, how people start to see you. You know, you get people that are just angry a lot.
Yeah.
You stay away from those people.
Yeah.
It's disconnecting. It's not connecting.
Yeah. A lot of what you're saying right now, it's making me think, especially regarding my role as a mother, because, you know, it's an unintentional thing, but children will do the same action again and again, and it triggers something within you, and it is at that moment where I can decide if I'm going to be affected or not. But I definitely feel it going on in my body. There's an immediate surge of tension that I feel, and it's like, how am I going to manifest this? What way am I going to actually proceed with it? But how do we avoid these triggers then, Candace?
We can't avoid them. We've got to notice them, and then we've got it. When you understand where they're coming from, it helps a huge amount.
Absolutely.
Why do toddlers throw temper tantrums?
No, I mean, it could be anything.
In a nutshell, they've got a very specific way in their head of how things need to be.
Oh, wow.
And when they're not exactly how they want them to be, they make it known. And that's exactly what happens with us.
So we
as
become
adults.
toddlers when we get triggered.
Same behavior.
This makes sense.
100%.
Complete sense.
Yeah.
And when you are stuck in your ways about things, for example, people must be kind, people must be considerate, people must care, that doesn't seem like an issue. But the truth is, when somebody is unkind, it's going to trigger you.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between what's really happening in front of you and what your mind is expecting to have happened. And when those don't match, that is when you're triggered. The truth is, people are supposed to be unkind, and it's not from a space of condoning bad behavior.
Okay.
Take a step back and say, when am I unkind? Because we like to see the flaws in others, but then when it comes to us, it's our blind
avoid.
spot.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I was actually thinking while listening to the conversation is that often there are people who I deal with who are heavily triggered at times, you know, and I always think, you know, is it me? Is it something that I said? You know, and I walk away from the conversation feeling quite guilty. You know? But then I always end up saying, but you didn't tell me that this was a problem. You didn't tell me that this was a trigger.
100%.
You know, and that's why I'm always pushing for open and honest engagement so that, you know, if I'm not aware of certain things, how will I know what to say and what not to say? So I kind of, you know, my view on this whole thing is it's not my fault if you're triggered.
Yeah.
You know?
It's quite interesting though, because it kind of goes back to these whole ideas of self-love and
Yes.
knowing who you are as an individual to
Absolutely.
possibly see what could trigger you, even though they are unforeseen. Perhaps that self-knowledge and expanding, you know, your ways of thinking and
What
dealing
are my
with things.
triggers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
make you identify what those triggers are. And we have been speaking about self-love quite in depth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Candace, I think it's very important for us to figure out now, is it possible to just avoid being triggered in any way, shape, or form? Like once we've identified what the trigger is, for example, if I'm triggered by a casino, for example, do I now take a different route every day to completely avoid the trigger? Or are there certain tools in which I can use to kind of make it more manageable?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice? I've gone on holiday to islands before trying to get away from the triggers, and guess what? They follow me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there really isn't a way to avoid them. They're going to keep coming at you, but there is something that you can do to take your power back. I like to explain it as if every time something upsets you and you choose to let it upset you, you're giving a piece of your happiness away. You're giving a piece of your happiness away to things that are not in your control.
Okay.
And by the time you get to work, I mean, let's be honest, the electricity's off before you get here. That's going to be a trigger. So you've given a piece of your happiness to Eskom. And then the milk is sour. Well, then the milk got a piece of your happiness. And so it starts with making a choice and saying, the things that are not in my control are not going to trigger me because I'm going to make a choice.
Yeah.
And the process that I like to teach people, which is so empowering, and the more that you do this, it's going to become automatic. Again, it all starts with noticing. So notice that you're triggered, and then you have to stop. The second step is so important. Every time I have regretted something, it's because I didn't stop. It's in that stopping that you are going to now take your power back. And then when you've paused, you're going to take a big, deep breath. And that's going to shift your entire human existence. It's the anger just dissipates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breath
Buying
work.
yourself that extra bit of time, it's actually stopped me before from losing my cool.
Yeah.
Just buying yourself a little bit of minute to be like, hold on a second, my brain, my emotional capacity, everything is catching up to one another and I need a moment to process.
100%. There's a thing that I once looked at called the robot method, right? It's literally a robot. So you've got red for stop, amber is for just think and take a breather, and then green is for respond. So, you know, even when it comes to emotions or triggers or whatever, we should maybe use that tool as well. So now, Candace, we need to direct everybody to the Facebook page, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So it's on www.grit-grow.co.za, and as well as on our Instagram. And then I've broken it down into chunks again this week because there's a lot and it's a process. So the first step today is about noticing. Today's activity is about keeping an inventory and noticing every single time you're triggered,
Okay.
and going to your journal and saying, the taxi driver, when somebody ignored me, when somebody barged in, when I was overwhelmed, whatever that is, But it comes with a bit of a disclaimer, because once you notice that you're looking for the triggers, you realize, oh my goodness, I can't believe how much is triggering me. But that's good.
Yeah,
That's
because
good.
you would think having a heightened awareness would actually be counterproductive, but in this case, it's actually productive, beneficial.
You can't do anything about it if you don't start with noticing.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And then when you start to make the choices, which was step 3, which I think I forgot to mention, you're going to accept the situation as if you've chosen it. Because why? Because it's already happened. If you had a time machine and you could go back in time and change that it's happened, it would be sensible to fight it, but it's already happened. So a lot of what we're doing this week is in accepting the things we cannot change.
I love that. Going back to the mantra, the serenity prayer,
That's
grant me the
it.
serenity to accept the things I cannot change. All right, lovely stuff. Candace, thank you so much for joining us. Candace Bester in the building every Monday for Coach's Corner. And of course, if you look on the website, grit-grow.co.za, all the information is there. Grit gives you specific tools to become your own pillar of strength. And of course, when challenges come your way, you are fully equipped to face them. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, we're going
Face
to
the
do
challenges.
exercises, check them out on the Facebook page, and then we have a recap on Friday. So
Absolutely.
it's very exciting. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. Candace, all the best for
Thank
the
you,
week. And
ladies.
thank you for joining us again.
Thanks.
Lovely stuff.